All right, we are back for another episode of What's the Big Idea, our podcast where we look back at the previous sermon, dig into maybe some extra stuff, and give
bonus content,
some behind the scenes look, and so we were continuing our march through the book of Acts, and got to Athens on Sunday.
Athens, Greece.
Not Athens, Georgia. Sorry, dog fans.
Or Athens, Tennessee.
Or I didn't even know there was an Athens, Tennessee.
There is an
There's
Athens,
probably a lot
Tennessee.
of Athenses in the U.S. If I had to
I'm sure
guess.
there are. There is an Athens, Tennessee.
Where's it at?
You're the Tennessee guy.
I lived in Counts. Okay?
Our producer is currently looking up Athens, Tennessee.
I only had enough room in my mind to remember where one very small town was in Tennessee.
Once you get outside the state lines of Georgia, my U.S. geography is very limited.
Yeah.
Athens, Tennessee. There you go.
All right. I've been near there probably. I've been in Sevierville. That's another metropolis in the state of Tennessee.
Our listening audience probably didn't hear. They didn't hear Connor. He wasn't mic'd. So southwest of Knoxville.
That's right.
Towards Pigeon Forge, he said.
And
Pigeon Forge. Never mind.
Okay. So there you go. If anybody's interested, looking for maybe a little place that you haven't been before.
Wonder if they have an Areopagus.
I'm sure they do. But probably call it that too.
Somebody needs to open a restaurant
and call it
in
that.
Athens. Call it Mars Hill.
I mean,
be a good church plant name.
We've got a bunch of Caldwell County folks up there.
We do.
We could get somebody interested in that. And so we were in Athens on Sunday. Threw a few big words out there, some places, and did some pictures of some of the kind of the famous sites in Athens. But that's not what we were there to talk about. Okay, we're not talking about the sites in Athens. We're talking about what happened there with Paul. So let's hear the big idea, and then I do want to ask you a little bit, kind of about just the timing of the message in relationship to kind of where we're at in VBS. So, but let's hear the big idea first.
Okay. Big Idea Sunday was a dark world needs us to shine the light of Jesus. So we're in Athens following Paul. We left out the previous week where Paul and Silas and Timothy had been in Berea, where they preach and they're well received, and the word is very much received with eagerness there by the Bereans. But it wasn't long before the Thessalonian Jews, before they came down and harassed Paul some more. So the Bereans sent Paul down to Athens, and so that got us to our text. And this week, it's kind of Athens is a 2-part deal for us. We looked at kind of the setup, and then in a couple of weeks we're going to pick up and look at Paul's message. So we just kind of looked at what did Paul see when he got to Athens, and he saw a lot of lostness. Yeah. And so we talked about what was it that Paul did to engage that darkness, and how are we called to be evangelists and shine that light of Christ too. So that was the direction from Sunday.
And so it plays really well into where we're at from in our kind of our church summer calendar, which is we started VBS.
Yeah.
Last night. We're recording on Monday. Today, right now, whatever. And so did you see that? I mean, I know you work ahead, that you plan and try to. You have an idea of kind of where we're going to be at certain points in the year, or places you want to be at particular points in the year, and
right.
And then we can kind of navigate and fill in space sometimes in between those things. But is this one of those things that you kind of aimed at this scripture to be at this week, or in aiming at another scripture another week, it just really landed to be so well? Because this does fit really well with our VBS theme of Illumination Station.
Yeah.
And but it does really go hand in hand with what we're doing this week with our kids.
Yeah, I thought so too. It was, I would call it semi-intentional. Really, it's like there are certain holidays, certain days that, all right, I know I kind of want to be at a certain place. Mother's Day we did. Easter, I knew I wanted to preach that resurrection passage in Antioch of Pisidia. I knew for Mother's Day I wanted to talk about Timothy's mother. So those passages, all right, so here we are. So kind of my next target was, all right, 4th of July weekend, where we're going to be is 250th anniversary of our nation. So I was kind of looking ahead thinking, okay, Paul's sermon to the people of Athens, there's a lot there that I can do. The timing's about right. I'm going to settle for that. So then it was a let's back up and see.
Mm-hmm.
And then it was, all right, VBS Sunday. How can I tie in something? Because I don't always, it's a square peg, round hole kind of deal.
Right.
If it's not anywhere close, I'm not going to force it.
Right.
But if I can find a way to tie in VBS, even if it's just with an illustration, I'm going to try to.
Mm-hmm.
But this week, as I began to look, it was just, man, this is tailor made for this. So I took the VBS theme, Illumination Station, and the theme for the week is, I think, shining a light on Jesus or something like that.
Right.
Shining a light on the truth of Jesus, I think, is what the VBS motto is this year. And so I thought, man, that's exactly what Paul does here.
Right.
And really, if it was, you could easily do the whole Athens thing on that theme, but I just thought this text really set itself up. And so I kind of played off the light deal and used that as my opener, even did the glow in the dark stuff for my slides. Just trying to kind of make some connections there.
Yeah.
So it was fun to do. And you mentioned too, even the pictures, that I had the thought, I had my sermon slides done and my sermon written. And I thought, you know what? Like, I want our people to see what Paul saw.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't just, hey, here's some neat pictures,
Right.
but seeing the magnitude of the archaeology and the imagery that he would have seen. Of course, he would have seen it in its heyday, right? We see crumbles, but anyway, I wanted our people to get a grasp of the depth of what he would have seen. So we showed a few pictures.
Yeah.
And this is I would say a good recommendation to anybody, when you're studying the scriptures. Back in the day, it was you needed a Bible atlas, right? Or, kind of those extra books. Now there's so much on the internet that you can go look at.
Right.
But those pictures and maps and other things like that really do help us to understand the context of where these stories take place. So anyway, I thought it was helpful.
And the reminder, like, we're talking about real places. And
exactly.
And Athens is one of those cities. I mean, I can remember vaguely in school when you start talking about ancient cultures and things like that. I mean, I can remember talking about the Parthenon and the Acropolis, and to be reminded, like, Paul saw those things.
Yeah. Had a church member come up to me. Lost my Bible there. Had a church member come up to me after church Sunday. Showed me some pictures. Like, hey, I've been there.
Yeah.
And he was showing me even a plaque where someone had put, "Hey, Paul preached here."
Mm-hmm.
It was at Mars Hill.
Right.
And and that's what I told him. I said, it's a reminder that these were real people in real places. This is not just some fictitious tale.
Yeah.
The biblical events occurred in true time and history, So I don't know. I think sometimes we forget that.
That's right. And I was pulling up a map based on when your map popped up. I couldn't picture what the little piece of land at the southern part of your map was. Like, Egypt doesn't go up like that. So I pulled up, I think it's Libya, maybe right there. And
yeah, where Morocco is and stuff today.
And so, but then, like, you start seeing, well, then and we talked about this the other day because it's not spelled the way we say it in Thessalonica. I mean, there's that city is
it's there.
However, Niki maybe how it was spelled on the map.
Yeah, Thessaloniki. It would be how they would say it in today's terms.
But I mean, there it is, right there.
There it is.
And
I want to go over there one day. Just to. I mean, people always say I want to go see. I'd love to see the history of it, but to kind of walk those places where Paul walked and experience that.
So, a little side note. I know we've had a few churches from here that have gone to Israel, and Ricky Smith, you and I both know Ricky out of Calvary in Columbus, and I know he's made the trip to Israel maybe a time or two. But I think one of their recent trips, they did followed Paul's journey a little bit.
Yeah, I'm sure
maybe I want to say they were in Turkey. I can't remember where all they ended up. But I think Ricky did a little trip where you kind of follow part of Paul's missionary journey, and gosh, if nothing else, you just see the scale of from place to place that he went, and how we're traveling is vastly different than how
he didn't hop on a 747.
How he traveled, and just what they went through to get from one place to the next, and with the desire, like why are we doing this? Well, we're doing this to shine a light on Christ. And so, it was. I thought, like you said, I would say you are very intentional of not trying to fit something that doesn't fit on some of those big weekends, and not preaching on a certain way just because it happens to be a certain holiday. But I thought the message Sunday really did line up perfectly with where we're at with VBS and the glow in the dark or the neon the neon sign border of your slides and stuff. I thought it worked really well, and it went well.
I tried to be intentional.
Went together well. So, so you mentioned the word Areopagus. That was one of the. I would not have said that correctly, I don't think. And one of the things I can remember about Athens, as I studied it, however many years ago, it was a place of discussion, and it was a place of bring your ideas, and we just sit and we sit and talk, right? And that was one of the things that you mentioned Sunday. It was just you'd have just gatherings of people, and it's almost like you just kind of waited your turn, or here's my idea, or if somebody else is talking and they say something, oh, here's kind of how I think about that. Like that was not necessarily an uncommon thing to take place. So we talked about the marketplace, I think was the wording in particular that that's used in the ESV. And so when you think about today, it may not look exactly like that, but what are some places that people are gathering together in general anyway, that maybe there's some opportunities for us to step in and respectfully listen to people, and then be willing to have the boldness maybe to say, hey, here's what I believe and why I believe it.
Yeah. I think you can look at this from several levels. I think, first of all, we just look at it from the daily aspect of this is just where Paul happened to find himself, right?
Mm-hmm.
I don't think he woke up in the day and said, I'm going to find the most strategic evangelistic spot necessarily. It was just, he's going to buy whatever at the marketplace, right? And he's going there and he's going about his business.
Right.
So I think the first way we can answer that question is to ask ourselves, where is God putting me on a daily basis where I'm just going about my business? It's my home, it's my school, it's my workplace, it's my neighborhood, it's my baseball team, it's whatever, right? It's where I'm going, where I'm around people consistently, where I'm going to have opportunities. They may not be natural opportunities for me to have evangelistic opportunities, but they are natural opportunities to have conversation, right? So therefore, how can I make those connections to the gospel? I think that's the easy way of looking at it. But I think beyond that, there are some strategic ways we can look at it. And it goes to what you just talked about, right? The marketplace wasn't just Dollar General was my joke on Sunday, right?
Yeah.
It was a place of intentional discussion where people aired their thoughts and ideas. And so as I thought about this question in anticipation of our podcast today, the first thing I thought about was, I think our best equivalent for this today is probably online.
Mm-hmm.
It's, now it's social media,
right.
Back in our day, right, in the advent of online things, like you think about forums and like chat groups or, online bulletin boards, things like that, where people go online and they're sharing their opinions about things. I imagine Paul would have been there.
Yeah.
I imagine he would have been doing some things online to share, which in fact, I think sometimes, I don't know, I don't do a whole lot online, but I think about that sometimes because of this. It's like, well, if that's where the people are, how can we engage there better? It's why we do this, right? It's why we're streaming. It's why we're trying to post content on YouTube. It's not so we can be popular and build a brand. It's because we're trying to be where the people are and share truth. So I think there's a digital aspect of this that is very relevant for us. But even there are some specific places. I didn't even think about this until you were just talking. It's in Athens, actually, like Athens, Georgia.
Yeah.
I forget the name of the place, but there's a designated spot on campus. You know what I'm talking about? Where it's like I forget. It's not. I mean, everywhere is free speech, right? First Amendment, but I think it's like a designated free speech zone or something where like you can come here to this spot on campus and share whatever you want to. And people go there and have evangelistic conversations.
Yeah.
Because it's a place where people gather to exchange ideas.
Yeah.
I need to find out what the name of that place is. It was in the news a while back. But anyways, there are some specific places like that. I would say particularly for our college students.
Right.
There are going to be natural opportunities for you to exchange ideas on your campus. There's no better place than that, you know. Those are a few things that come to my mind. I'll finish just by maybe giving a word of caution. I don't think the marketplace always has to be a formal setting, right? This one was. It doesn't have to be for us. Getting back to what I said first, where are those natural places you find yourself? But I do think there are some specific arenas in which these conversations are expected and welcomed, and we need to be prepared to have them.
Yeah. College was really the first thing I thought of. I know when Lila was at Kennesaw, it wasn't unusual for their church to kind of set up a table and just kind of, you know, they're passing out donuts or coffee or whatever. But they wouldn't be the only ones maybe out there on that particular day, just meeting people and talking with them. And I can't remember exactly where it was on Kennesaw's campus, but probably some sort of open kind of grassy area, some sidewalks, kind of probably lots of buildings kind of surrounding it, high traffic areas where, hey, this is where people are walking around. Yeah. We want to engage with them in some sort of conversation. And I can just remember her talking about their church, in particular their collegiate ministry at their church at North Star, coming out and setting up and again just talking with folks, whether they may have had an event going on they wanted to talk about or just engaging with the students, kind of the student body in general. And I do picture college as a lot like that, whether that's accurate for every college or not. But for a lot of our students that go to school, especially if they go off to school somewhere, it really is one of the first times where they're probably surrounded by, like, I don't know who coined the phrase, the marketplace of ideas, but they're probably surrounded by more thought, especially more vocal thought than they probably ever have been.
And even more like critical thinking, you know, you can't just take for granted, well, I've always done this. My parents believe this.
Right. And so
why do I believe it?
So I feel like that's part of our, as the student minister here and as the next gen pastor for even beyond high school, like I feel like that's kind of part of our my responsibility and our opportunities to try to help our students just be prepared for that.
Yeah.
And get them to think maybe more deeply about why they believe what they believe, so that when they are asked and when they are in, they are meeting people from lots of different backgrounds that may not even necessarily be trying to challenge anything, but they're just sharing their things, and they're very charismatic and they're very nice and approachable. And why do we believe what we believe, and do we have the ability to communicate it in a way that I can stand on truth, I can be respectful. I don't have to. I'm not trying to win an argument, but
or even
prepare to share the ideas, the things that I believe.
Or even be manipulative, you know. I mentioned, I don't remember if I mentioned it at both services, but I mentioned a phrase Sunday. I don't think Paul was standing there on the street corner, you know, on this little platform with this big sign, you know, like you kind of pictured the guys sometimes like, you know, you're all going to hell. Like, I don't picture that. I think he was just having natural conversations that spread to bigger conversations that spread to formal conversations, right? But it started with just him striking up conversations with the people that were in front of him. You talk about like being on this campuses or places. It doesn't have to be like, how can we manipulate this gathering so that we can have evangelistic opportunities? You know, the phrase or the image that came up into my mind as you were sharing, it's like when you go to the store. I think like when I used to go to Bass Pro a lot, which is not anymore, but I used to, if I was going through Macon, I'd always swing through Bass Pro. Yeah. And you could not walk back to the clearance section without passing the guy who's selling the vacation packages. And they put him right there because all the people are hitting the clearance section, right? So they put him right there, and the funnel is like you have to walk by him. So you know you'd be like, you know, duck and cover. Yeah. I don't think that's what Paul. I don't think he was trying to sell a vacation package there in the marketplace. I think instead he's just having conversations, and people became interested in what he had to say. Yeah. that's the balance of evangelism, right? There's what we would call conversational evangelism, which is very, you know, we're just kind of naturally comes up. There's relational evangelism. I'm
Mm-hmm.
building these opportunities. There's what we would call confrontational evangelism, which is I'm going to cold call, ask you a religious question, right?
Right.
And they all have a place. I think our danger is when we look at one of those types of evangelism and we say that's the way you've got to do it.
Right.
No, we've talked about this before. Paul said, "I became all things to all men, that by all means I might reach some." I think you see that here.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, these people are religious.
Yep.
These people are interested in religious conversation. I'm just going to talk to them about what I believe.
Yes.
And then it spread from there.
Mm-hmm. It's one of the things, based upon what we see in Scripture, it's really one of the, Athens seems to stand out in some ways. And again, maybe it's just because I know more about Athens from just an educational standpoint, but just it is one of those places I always just think of it as being, man, if they'll listen to anybody.
Yeah.
Anybody that's willing to stand up and share, like they'll engage in the conversation because they wanted to engage in the conversation. Right. They were, as one of your points from something, like they were just interested in hearing from you,
right?
Whether they agreed with you or not.
Yeah.
And in some sense, it feels like maybe we're losing that aspect. It feels like, and maybe that's more of just a cultural thing specifically here. But
I agree with that. And that's why I wanted to justify. I mentioned Sunday. I didn't want to just say, "Hey, people are interested." Well, I've always heard that, but the stats need to back it up, because I do think there's less people. Maybe there's less interest today, or at least maybe less of a willingness to have a conversation with somebody. I think people will open up to it more, but we're such an individualistic society right now. I mean, you go to an airport, everybody's got their earbuds in, right?
Yep.
I don't want to talk to you. Don't talk to me. Don't look at me. I won't look at you.
Yeah.
Just do your own thing. Stay in your lane.
Yep.
Out walking down the road. I mean, nobody wants to have conversation.
Yeah.
So I do think maybe there's a decline, but I still think overwhelmingly there's more of an interest than we give people credit for.
We just have to be willing to have the conversation,
for sure,
or just engage in conversation. Again, like I was saying, the conversation, like the gospel. Just be willing to talk to people in general. And I mean, I can very much stay in my lane. And
you and I are both introverted.
Go sit off to the side, and I picked our family at the ball fields. I mean, we're on the other side. Like, we get away from everything a lot of times, and part of that's me, driven by me, because I'm good with not being around everybody else.
Right.
And I know that about, so I, like, even today, like Asher will have practice this afternoon, I can very easily just kind of stand off by myself, and I would assume it can come off as very, like, man, right, he just thinks he doesn't care about anybody, like he's better than everybody, whatever. And that's not the driving force behind it, but I have to be more intentional and make myself do the thing that at times it'd be really easy for me to not do, and that is just engage in the conversation. I don't mind talking to people. But there's a lot of times I'm very good off by myself.
Yeah.
And it's a weird place to be in the occupation that I have, and just from a ministry standpoint in general, because ministry is so people driven.
Yep.
You mentioned Sunday, and because it was in the Scripture, that's the reason you mentioned it. Two philosophical groups, I guess, maybe would be the Epicureans and the Stoics. So first, just kind of remind us what those two things are, and then what do we see today that might be either similar or, because these are kind of philosophies of life. What are some other philosophies of life that we may see today that impact worldview, really?
Yeah. So Epicureanism and Stoicism, you can go down these rabbit holes as deep as you want. I mean, I'm giving very much an oversimplification here, but there's kind of one thought that rises to the top for each philosophy. Epicureanism was pleasure. And when we think pleasure, don't think so much like extreme carnal living, just like free from rules. It wasn't so much that, but it was a we're natural beings. There's no eternity. The design for me is this feels good. That must be the natural thing that I'm supposed to do. Is this
Right.
brings me pleasure, right? So I should pursue what makes me happy. Stoicism, reason is the chief virtue. I'm thinking. It's logic. The word logos, we talk about that in John 1, right?
Right.
That was their main thing. What is that? What is the word? What is the truth? What is the essence of what we're supposed to be here for? So this high value in thinking, processing, reasoning, less emotion driven, less feeling driven. It was kind of an antithesis of Epicureanism. I'm going
Right.
to deny that pleasure
Mm-hmm.
because that's carnal. I want to attain that higher level of thinking.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's the arena in which Paul was sharing. And I mentioned Sunday, I couldn't tell you one person who I would say they're in the school of of Epicureanism.
Right.
I mean, Stoics, we say that's he's stoic, right? But
Mm-hmm.
we mean it more of a personality type.
Right.
But I do think you find those ideas,
Mm-hmm.
even if it's not a formal school of philosophy. The average person in Colquitt County is not going to say, I adhere to this philosophy. But there are people in Colquitt County who very much live for pleasure.
Mm-hmm.
And there are people in Colquitt County who very much want to reason about things and think that the chief end of life is figuring stuff out, right?
Yep.
These high level processors. And I think in both cases, those can be stumbling blocks to the gospel, right? Because the Epicurean says, or the modern Epicurean says, man, I just want to live my life the way I want to live it, right?
Yeah.
Hey, for the Epicurean, there was no sense of moral absolutes. I think the term today would be moral relativism.
Mm-hmm.
It's the person who says, well, if you believe that's wrong, fine. I don't believe that way. You do you. I'm going to do me.
Yeah.
I'm going to live how I feel like living. You live like you feel like living. And let's be okay with that.
Mm-hmm.
That's modern day Epicureanism.
Yeah.
Modern day Stoicism, I would say you see that a lot in maybe this like postmodernism is probably the right word today.
Mm-hmm.
What I mean by that is particularly like post-Christian, this idea of that's antiquated. I'm not just going to believe that because it's what my granddad or grandmother believed, but I'm only going to believe what I can know to be true. I'm only going to believe in what I can see and understand.
Yep.
And getting back to college, like that's where so many Christian young people fall away, is because for the first time their worldview gets, challenged. Why do you believe in Jesus? Well, because the Bible tells me so. Well, why do you believe the Bible, right?
Right.
And so that line of thinking, that real hypercritical, I've got to figure this out. I do think that's really prevalent in academia. And I think it's becoming incredibly prevalent among our young people today. Is it the same as Stoicism? No. But I do think you see both of those things in our culture today. And we need to be prepared to have conversations with both of them.
Right. There's oh man, it's a TV show. Probably terrible. Like one of the characters would like treat yourself was kind of like one of the phrase of some of the characters, like you need to treat yourself, right? And this like go and be extravagant for yourself and take care of, and look out for number one. Like that's probably not even a term that you like. That's not cool or
so
whatever.
old.
But like, yeah, that's a term that you and I would have kind of heard growing up some. And I think very much whatever it's called, however it gets framed and phrased, I think it leans towards that Epicurean concept, right? If it's enjoyable, do it.
Yep.
Don't worry about the consequence necessarily. What this the here and now. Let's live in the here and now. And especially with the idea of if there's nothing beyond this life, then live life to the fullest. Right? Which sounds really good.
Yeah.
But when you start trying to peel back the layers of what somebody might mean when they say, two people could say that and mean two completely different things. And so you got to peel back the layers and really understand what is somebody. If that's somebody says my thought process, I want to live life to the fullest. Well, let's peel back the layers and what are we talking about? There's a biblical concept of that. Jesus says, "I've come to give you life and give it in abundance, to give it to the full." Right. Well, if I want to live my life to the fullest from that standpoint, there's a biblical idea behind that pursuit. If I want to live life to the fullest, as in I'm going to do what I want to because I want to do it, that's obviously not a deny yourself concept, which we see in Scripture. And then from the Stoic and from the reasoning standpoint, the difficulty. So then I think the deny yourself aspect of Christianity is part of the kind of the difficulty that lies in the person that leans more towards the Epicurean concept,
Agreed.
right? I think more towards the Stoic aspect is the faith requirement of Christianity.
Yeah.
That I tell people I can't 2 + 2 is 4 somebody to faith, to Jesus, because there's this aspect of faith that we see throughout Scripture, and so somebody that's their driving force of their worldview and of their concept and the way they're going to think about things, and I would lean that way more than I would lean towards the pleasure. I'm I'm a numbers driven person. So I would lean more towards the Stoic aspect of, if we're just comparing these two particular philosophies, it would have been that aspect of faith would have been more of a stumbling block for me coming to Christ as opposed to the denying myself aspect of coming to Christ. And so, but the weird thing is I was thinking about this and read this question and thinking about it as you even preached on Sunday. I was like, but there's lots of different worldviews and ideas.
And there would have been in Athens too.
But a lot of the ones that I could think of lean in one of these two, seem to kind of lean in one of these two, at least generic paths.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah, they're good broad categories. They're not exhaustive.
Right.
I mean, there's other, again, in Athens, there would have been other philosophies. There would have been other religions.
Yep.
Same as today. You show up in whatever your marketplace is, to use that term, people are going to believe everything under the sun.
Mm-hmm.
But generally speaking, what are they looking for? They're looking for a meaning of life. They're looking for what is true. They're looking for what brings them happiness and joy, right? And so Epicureanism and Stoicism were kind of two philosophies that delivered, right, in some way or form or fashion, those things. So I don't know. I think if nothing else, it's a good reminder that we live in a culture and a context that has a different worldview than we do.
Mm-hmm.
But the building blocks for theological conversation are there, right?
Right.
For the Epicurean, hey, you believe in like pleasure being the meaning of life. Well, I'm here to, what Jesus told the woman at the well, right? Like, you're never going to thirst again if you drink of this water. I'm here to give you true joy, true pleasure. It's found in Jesus, right? To the Stoic, the reason. You want to know about Logos? Well, let me introduce you to him. He's a person. His name is Jesus, right? And so the answer to whatever the worldview is found in Christ, right? And so how do we take that philosophy and build a bridge to Jesus and show him as the solution of it?
Yeah.
I think about, we both have used the 3 circles as an evangelistic tool. We've talked about it before on here, but you talk about God's design, brokenness, right? The gospel, the recovery aspect. How can I connect this person to where they are in that brokenness? What are they searching for, right? And let me show them Jesus is better.
That's right.
So even if there's not a true plug and play exact match of philosophy here, Paul is a great example of saying, let me start where you are, and then let me make a run to the gospel from there.
This is a smart dude, man.
You talking about
Paul?
Paul?
Yeah,
very much so. Well, and I think sometimes we forget just how smart. He had, let's use a modern equivalent. He had his PhD in theology, right? He had grown up under the leading rabbi in Judaism in Jerusalem.
Right.
He was a Pharisee of Pharisees.
Yeah.
This guy knew his stuff. He would have been able to sit down and have a debate with someone, and we see him do it.
Yes.
So sometimes we kind of picture Paul like running helter-skelter around,
Right.
But no, he was very intelligent and he was very bold. I don't think Paul was introverted.
No.
I think we see a lot of, he just didn't care.
No.
But at the same time, even though you and I are good examples of people who may not be hardwired the same way Paul would be, our call is no different.
That's right.
So how can we engage? How can we shine that light? Right.
Anything else you wanted to kind of mention related to this past Sunday, or kind of heads up of where we're going?
Well, this very much sets the stage for where we're going, because we're going to pick up here in a couple of Sundays with what happens when Paul goes to the Areopagus and he has this conversation, and it's very much, let me start with where you are, and then let me show you how Jesus is better. Right. And we see his formal message to this body of people there. So we'll get there in a couple of weeks, and I say that a couple of weeks because this Sunday is a little different. We'll have a guest preacher this Sunday, a friend of mine actually, J.T. Thompson. He's the director at Camp Crosspoint in Pelham. They're going to be they're our highlighted mission partner this year for VBS, taking up an offering for their ministry. So he's going to come preach, and anyway, it'll be a really good, I think, a good segue because their whole mission and ministry is like, how do we share the gospel with people, like with children and families in South Georgia,
right?
And they do a lot with like worldview and understanding the difference of what we believe. And anyway, so I'm interested to see what he's going to be preaching on Sunday, and I think it'll tie in well. And then we'll pick back up in Acts in 2 weeks, and for our Independence Day weekend celebration, we'll see about the true freedom that's found in Jesus, and what does that mean for our culture? I'm really going to be looking at that text through the lens of, this was Paul's message to Athens. What would be his message to our American culture? And I think it would be very similar. Yeah. So that's kind of the angle I plan to take.
Yeah. Well, we look forward to having JT on Sunday, and this is something we've done, I guess, maybe the past couple summers, tried to have.
Yeah, this will be the third year we've had somebody
some
during
sort of
VBS
mission partner come in after VBS, and so we hope that you're here Sunday to worship with us and hear the message from JT, and just offer him some encouragement if you're able to be here Sunday morning, and just because they do a lot. At their camp, they obviously camp during the summer, but throughout the year, they're having events for families and kids and weekend events, and they do a lot of. They're helping to train leaders. So it's a great. It's one of I would have never heard of it if it wasn't for you spending time in Pelham, and then I've had a chance to meet JT a little bit, get to meet Harold, who works there and works at Pelham as well, and then they had a chance to go and speak to one of their student things. And man, they got a lot going on, kind of out in the middle of nothing. And there it is. But a great ministry that we're very thankful and fortunate to have a chance just to partner with them.
Agreed.
And encourage them. So come join us this Sunday. Depending upon when this comes out, we don't have. Because of VBS going on and stuff, some of our normal evening activities are not necessarily taking place, but we've got VBS going through Thursday. And so for those of you that are watching and are helping, man, thank you. We had a ton of volunteers last night, man. Maybe 1-to-1 on the adults plus students to kids.
Wow.
May have ended up being right around 1-to-1 if you combine snacks and missions and everything, which is amazing. So thank you, church, for that. And we're looking forward to continuing VBS this week, and then hope to see you Sunday morning. So see you later.